Because of the movies, we have a fantasized vision of the job of an FBI agent. Not all is as exciting as in the movies, but a lot is. As an FBI agent, your mission is to enforce the US federal law. Nael was in the industry for over 2 decades, and I had the privilege to interview him about his job. So, here's Nael. Thank you, Nael, for joining me. It's a pleasure. I wasn't dreaming of having an FBI agent under, my list of interviewees. And when our common friend told me about you, I was very happy to meet you and to interview you. So, and since the FBI has been in the radar for quite some time now, especially in the US news, I would love for you to start telling me what does an FBI agent job consist of?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and having me on your program.
Pleasure.
It's really an honor to talk with you about the FBI. It's a great organization, and I was very happy to be a part of it for over 23 years. In general, the FBI agent has several different jobs. There's over 200 different jobs an FBI agent could do, but they revolve mostly around the enforcement of federal law, the United States federal law. Mm-hmm. It's part of the Department of Justice. And so they investigate violations of federal law and, submit their reports to the prosecutors that work in the United States Attorney's Office and all under the umbrella of the Department of Justice.
So what's actually in the news today? Can you tell me?
Yeah, the FBI has been in the news, around the election cycle. The latest news was they conducted a search warrant at the home of the former president. And it was noteworthy in the news in that this was the first time the FBI conducted a search warrant at the home of a former president. So that's why it made the news, besides all the other reasons why it made the news. But one of the aspects was that it was the first time the FBI conducted a search warrant at the home of a former president.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So how much, because we know we, the general public, we have a romanticized vision and idea of an FBI agent. How much is it really represented in the movies, and how much does that reflect or did reflect in your job back then?
I think there's several movies that in the hour and a half the movie runs, they do a great job in depicting what a career as an FBI agent would look like over several years, right? The hour and a half movie might really depict, 2 years of an FBI agent's investigation and coursework. But they plug it into an hour and a half and it seems exciting. Although the work over a year and a half is just as exciting sometimes as being in a movie, but filled with a lot of, the normal administrative duties that come along with investigating big cases, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So you started, 23 years prior to your, to being a federal agent. You studied at the FBI. What was your first job at the FBI?
So, I started in the mid-90s and, I was a software engineer and applied to the FBI. And, back then they really took a lot of accountants, lawyers, investigators, and some software engineers and other engineering sciences and the like. But, back then, Y2K and internet commerce was, starting. And so there were a lot of engineers who also were hired in the 90s. But what's interesting is my first position was actually working very traditional FBI violations like bank robbery, fugitives, those type of things, which you really learn what the process is in the federal judicial system. For example, writing an affidavit for a search warrant or for an arrest, conducting the investigations associated with those type of crimes, and then indicting the subject of your case and following it through to a trial perhaps, and then a conviction. And it's a real nice way to learn what the judicial system, the wheels, what they look like for a new FBI agent.
I see. And you being from, a software engineer, did you have to learn about, federal law? Did you have to prepare in order to enter the FBI, or is it something that you kind of learn with the job?
Well, the nice thing is all FBI agents start at the FBI Academy in Virginia.
Mm,
And they all start from scratch. Whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer, you really start learning communication, legal studies, firearms, physical training. And they take
okay.
you through the different aspects of what a day to day job would look like once you get to the field. And so once you get to the field, you have a good, foundation, and then you are partnered with a more seasoned investigator to learn the different details of the actual violation you're investigating. And so this tradition of partnering with a more seasoned investigator and agent has worked well with bringing the new agents up to speed to learn what they need to do to get their cases through the judicial process.
I see.
Yeah.
And when you first started the academy, was it an opportunity that presented itself, or were you looking for, the academy, or how did that come
Well,
onto your, yeah.
yeah, for me, I really just wanted a job that, I received some great advice. It said, if you have a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And to me, I, looked at the landscape of job opportunities, and the job description and reputation of the FBI really sounded exciting to me. And one aspect that I'll get into later is the international opportunities that the FBI has. We have 56 offices in the United States, but with that, we also have agents who are assigned overseas working in the United States embassies that work internationally. And I've always been interested in working internationally, and the combination of the FBI domestic work combined with that opportunity that you could work overseas really attracted me to apply to the FBI.
I see. Okay, so you applied to the FBI, and then you got approved, let's say, and then you started the academy. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, they have a very extensive and competitive application process. But yeah, once they select you, you go through the hiring process and you're given a date to report to the FBI Academy. And you, and along with about 50 other FBI agents, start on that Monday. And for 4 months, you learn what it takes and what is required of an FBI agent. And then after those 4 months, you're assigned to your office in the United States and begin your entry level assignment as a special agent.
And so, from the moment that you enter until you're actually independent, let's say, FBI agent, ready to work, how long does it take?
After the training and being in the field for a year or so, I think you develop a good idea of what it takes and how to move your cases forward. I think a lot of FBI agents, by about the 2 year mark, are comfortable with medium sized cases. They learn how to coordinate with others and communicate well with different agencies that the FBI partners with. And so by the second, third, and fourth year, you're taking on more substantial and more complicated cases. And then, of course, by your seventh year, you're considered a seasoned or fairly experienced investigator for complex cases using some of the more advanced techniques that the FBI uses to investigate their cases. So it really is a gradual progression, but at about the 7 year mark, you're considered fairly experienced.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And is there actually a good mix between office work and work on site in the field, or are there specific mandates? There's people who will be on the office and there people who will be on the field.
Well, initially, I think it's really a mix, and you can kind of become an expert in what it is you're good at. And so I think in your first 7 years, you're getting a mix of report writing, coordination, along with everything else that is involved in an investigation, including, witness interview, collecting evidence, conducting surveillance, interviewing witnesses and subjects, and collecting data to support your objective. And so the first 7 years you spend really gaining experience in those areas, all the areas that involve investigative work. Now, later in your career, you can you can choose to specialize in any number of opportunities the FBI has. It's over 200 opportunities, anywhere from evidence collection and firearms training to, like the other one I used as an example, working overseas as a legal attaché. So the career track is very fairly extensive, and it just allows the agent to develop an expertise in a certain area and then to pursue the subject area that he or she is interested in.
Okay, so about international and being an attaché, what is the mission of an FBI agent who was abroad?
So, I mean, and to summarize the job description, it is to coordinate with the local police agencies to provide training, to assist in investigations, both investigations that are originating in the United States and then investigations that originated in the host country but have a component that affects the United States. And then the third aspect of the job is to work with the agencies that are represented at the U.S. Embassy in that country. So going back to the primary purpose is to liaison with the host country's police services. And an example of that would be if a subject in Virginia escapes to a foreign country with the proceeds of a criminal activity. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the local police or the FBI office, they require somebody in that country to represent their requests and their interests in securing the evidence, interviewing witnesses. And so that agent in that country, rather than every field office sending an FBI agent to that country to do the work, they coordinate with the representative in that country. It becomes more efficient that way.
I see.
Yeah. So that's the primary purpose. The auxiliary purpose is if that in that country, if their police have a reason to need something from a police agency in the United States, they can also coordinate with that local FBI agent to make the request of whatever it is they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you say something about your own experience as attaché?
Yeah, I was in the Middle East and Africa for 5 years, and that's exactly what we did. Was we met with local police services, facilitated requests for information. We provided information that they requested, and many times we also exchanged training programs. For example, money laundering, bomb technician training, many different aspects that the FBI might be good at, they would be requested to provide that training to the local service. And several other types of exchanges where perhaps FBI agents came to that country for training in a particular area that they were good at. So it's definitely an exchange of information and some training opportunities.
Do you know if there are any prerequisites, like for instance, if you want to be a pilot, you have to be good in terms of your fitness and your eyesight and so forth. Are there physical prerequisites and psychological prerequisites in order to become an agent?
Yes, in fact, there is. There's a fairly high expectation that the FBI agents maintain physical and health throughout their career, and they're tested periodically on their physical fitness and provided regular medical exams to ensure they're, fit for duty. So yeah, it definitely has an expectation that they can, do the job that they're responsible for.
Okay. And, of course, we were talking about our own ideas of an FBI agent. Do you find one or several myths around the work of an FBI agent?
Some of the myths that I hear from potential candidates to the FBI is that they've never, shot a gun, or they've never arrested somebody, or they don't know what it would be like. And sometimes they have their own fear of what the training would be and, how strenuous or difficult it could be. But I relate to them that they really can start the academy and take, one step at a time. And for example, in the firearms training program, they teach everyone, male or female, experienced or non-experienced. They start them out from zero and take them to be a 10 out of 10. And I saw many people in my class who had never shot a gun become the best shot in the class. And some who had training before, they realized that their training wasn't as good as it should be, and learned a lot more than they expected. And so it's really just, the best attitude is to keep your eyes open and your ears, listening. And you get to a point where you're very confident in whatever it is that you felt a little less confident prior to starting the academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there also an age limit? Like, can you apply any time in your life or only up to a certain age?
I think the FBI likes to hire people who have a little bit of experience. They graduated from college. A college degree is one of the requirements. They had a few years of work experience in which they showed a certain level of expertise and professionalism, attention to detail, some leadership skills, some accomplishments. And in your mid 20s is about the right time to start applying and thinking about the position. I think the average age of a class is maybe in the high 20s, 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, so a bit of experience, yeah.
yeah, and so the cutoff age is about 36, 37 years old. And then the expectation is that you would work 20 to 25 years and retire in your mid to late 50s. Yeah.
Okay, and you must retire in mid to late 50s, or can you go on?
No, there's a mandatory retirement age at 57 with, the potential to stay, 1 or 2 years longer. And there's also the potential to retire, 1 or 2 years earlier. But in general, the mid to late 50s is when most FBI agents retire.
Do you remember what was the thing that you enjoyed most about your profession?
Well, the thing I enjoyed most about the profession is really the wonderful people that I worked with in the FBI and that I coordinated with outside the FBI in the other law enforcement agencies. I think the people that choose law enforcement as the profession are people that, have that gift of service in their overall characteristic, service to others, helping others. Because sometimes as an FBI agent, you're really the first person and the only person to help a victim or to take a report from somebody who's been victimized. And being empathetic and helpful in communicating with them on a very serious matter. Sometimes it's the most serious thing that happened to that person in their life. And you're the only one there to, take the information you need, but also to take care of them emotionally and sometimes provide them resources to get back on their feet. And so really the greatest thing was working with the people that have chosen that profession, to run to danger, to run to the sound of gunfire, and to run to victims of crimes and offer to assist them and investigate the cases that present themselves. And that really was one of the greatest treasures of working at the FBI, was to be given that opportunity, right? To have that opportunity to enjoy that feeling of service to others.
Yeah, it's very enriching, isn't it?
Very much so.
And were there difficult parts with difficult moments during your professional life?
I think, the very nature of investigating criminal activity, collecting evidence that could be worldwide, and dealing with, treaties and borders and people and eliciting information that is sensitive comes with a certain level of contention, right? There might be people that disagree with your method or that might not want to provide the evidence or there might be a language barrier. There's always a certain level of contention that I think FBI agents have to navigate to get to collect whatever it is they're looking for. And dealing with that contention sometimes requires, adjustment of your, demeanor, recognizing when to, focus properly on one aspect and let something else go or, collect later. So that sometimes is difficult dealing with the contention, right? But it's a nature of the work. And I think a lot of people by the time they've been in for a few years, recognize that in the end, things have a way of working themselves out because the mission is, it's an honorable mission, and that's why things end up, working out.
Yeah. If you look at personalities of people, of a young man or young woman, what would you say is the best personality that would fit for this job in terms of mainly soft skills?
For me, what I saw is somebody who's disciplined and dedicated and professional and collaborative. Collaboration is really one of the best skills you can bring to the table. Is when you come to the table and you look around the other people sitting at the table, and if you ask yourself, how can I help that person be successful? That would be a great attitude, because in ensuring the success of the other people at the table, you've already charted the course for your own success.
That's well said.
Yeah.
And in your years of work at the FBI, have you taken some lessons with you, and that would make you maybe change things had you known them in advance?
Well, there's always things you could have done differently and better and charted your course, differently. But I was very lucky and fortunate to be, several times in my career at the right place at the right time. And I think the best thing I did was making myself available so that when the opportunity presented itself, I was one of the, candidates that could be selected for the opportunity. And I think really that just is one of the best attributes that a new agent can have is some discipline and, being available and choosing to volunteer. Volunteer for, not the best assignments, but just volunteer in general, so that when there is an opportunity that you really want, your resume and experience would, speak for itself.
Okay, I have one last question. It's about technology and the relationship with the agency. Do you see any future jobs that would be advantageous if with technology within the agency, be it virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and is that an add-on, let's say, value to bring to the agency that will change the way also the agency will work in the future?
Yeah, I think the future FBI agent will definitely have to have an awareness of cybersecurity, the cyberspace, everything you mentioned with virtual reality and how, data is being used for our future appliances, and then how to collect that data from wherever it's stored and then to present it in a logical and systematic way so that, the judges and the attorneys who are taking the case to the next step can understand how you collected it, what you collected it, and where you collected it from. So definitely having a good idea of what, disk space, cyberspace looks like would be very advantageous to, the next generation of agents. And we have many already that are working in understanding blockchain technology, for example, the cloud services and how the data is stored and collected and authenticating that data. So it's becoming more and more important in the legal field and how to deal with, electronic data collection.
And now that you have retired from the FBI, what do you plan to do next, or what are you doing today?
I'm retired and working in a very similar field in intellectual property investigation and preservation. I think a lot of companies these days, their product is built on their intellectual property. And I was lucky enough to find a job that utilizes my background at the FBI to protect the company's intellectual property.
I see. And then, of course, you have a lot of experience that you can bring to this new occupation. So excellent, and it's been very interesting. And unfortunately, we need to cut it here. But I really hope they maybe one day can interview you again, and then you can tell us a bit more in depth about your job. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you for having me, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
When you work in law enforcement, your job can be multifaceted. You definitely want to be keen to help people, be dedicated and disciplined, and collaborative. So, what do you think? Write me your comments at jobtalespodcast@gmail.com.